Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And hi, if you're new here, I'm Jade. And I thought I would today just kind of let you know how I rate books. So I feel like everyone does rate slightly differently. I feel like everyone has their own kind of methods. And I thought if I shared it with you, then you maybe would understand my ratings when I'm doing my monthly wrap ups and things like that. So I just thought maybe it'd be kind of interesting and kind of useful. And maybe you yourself, you're not sure how you want to rate yourself. Maybe you're new to reading. Maybe you've read a long time, but you're like, does my rating system work? So I just thought I would share my insight on how I do it. I am not saying it is the only way to rate, by the way, not at all. I feel like it's very unique for every person, and however people decide is fine. But I just thought it would give you a little bit more insight to me and my bookish self. So I was trying to think to like really break it down how exactly I rate. And I think really it comes to sort of 5 different points. So we're going to sum them up one at a time, and then you'll see how I come to like my overall conclusion. So when rating a book, I would say the first thing I consider is the plot. Obviously the plot has to be able to like grab my interest somewhat, because otherwise why would I like the book at all? So I feel like the plot's very relevant. Like if I feel there is enough to keep me interested, does enough happen, is it boring? I have to know that there's something going on that I want to find out in the book. So I feel like the plot is always the best place to start, at least for me, when trying to like come up with a rating, because yeah, if it doesn't hold my interest at all in the plot, then there isn't so much hope. However, saying that, I think it can have a weaker plot and I'll still like the book if I like the other factors that I will mention in this video. But I do think the plot is very important. Then my second thing I consider are the characters. Do I like the characters? Now, I don't mean like necessarily as in, oh, I really like them in terms of I want to be friends with them, but I mean, are they written well? Do they hold my interest? So it could be a villain and I still like them as a character. I think they're written interestingly, that I want to know what's going to happen. So I don't mean that I necessarily have to like them as in I want to be friends with them. I just mean, are they written to hold my interest, I guess? Like, I feel I need to feel something strongly for a character. So I need to really hate that villain, or if they're going to have like a redemption arc, I really need to feel that. If I'm going to like the main male characters, especially like in a romance, there has to be things that attract me to them. And, if I am reading a romance, I want to be attracted to that main male character, because I feel like otherwise it kind of lets down the romance a little bit. So those things are all kind of important for me, that the character suits the genre of the book, and not only that they suit the genre of the book, but that they hold my interest in whatever role they are, whether it is villain, main character, side character. I love a good funny side character. So things like that definitely contribute to how much I rate the book. Like if I love the characters, honestly, even if the plot's a bit lacking, that can make me still really enjoy a book. Okay, point 3 is the writing quality. And I say quality, I guess I could also say like likability. So for me, it's not that it always has to be complex or written so well that, you can tell they must have a degree. I just mean, I think for me, it means there's not a ton of mistakes, there's not a ton of plot holes. The voice is a voice I like. So the character perspective that it's written from, whether it's first person, third person, active voice, passive voice, things like that. And I don't have like a set thing I hate on that. I will say, I think first person, following one perspective is maybe my favorite, but I like a lot of different ones, I will say. There isn't like a set favorite for me that I know it means I'm going to love it. So, yeah, all that stuff about writing, the style it's written in, more than quality in terms of complexity, because sometimes you want complexity, but there are a lot of more simply written books out there where I think the writer themselves wouldn't win an award for like amazing writer, but I think they write to the level the book needs and it holds my attention and has the right voice for the book. So that's what I mean by that for me. It's whether the voice suits the book and whether I enjoy it and I can get into it. Okay, the fourth thing I consider, how absorbed into the book am I? So this one is so important to me. Like if I really can't put a book down, then it's got to be high on the rating, because there's obviously things I like about it. If it addicts me that much, even if there's the odd thing that lacks, like even if there's a character I think isn't written particularly well, but otherwise like the plot's really holding me. For this is really, really important. So it kind of links in to the other factors, I think. How absorbed am I is kind of affected by the other three things I've mentioned. But for me, even if I know, oh, this isn't the best writing I've ever read, I can still be like super absorbed. So for me, if I can't put a book down, then it's got to be right up there with the ratings. It only seems fair to the author that if you've written something that I'm like, I need to know what happens, well, then you've done your job, right? I don't want to put your book down. That's a win. And then the final thing, number 5, that I consider is actually the genre of the book. This one might sound a little bizarre, but for me, a 5-star fantasy might be very, very different than a 5-star thriller for me. I think, especially because I'm a mood reader, I will sometimes just be more in the mood for, a fantasy or romance rather than something dark like a thriller horror. I definitely get affected by the season. I often say I'm a seasonal reader because I definitely vibe more with the light-hearted books in those kind of nice, bright, sunny weathers. And then when it's all stormy and cloudy outside, I kind of like the moody stuff. So the genre is something I consider because I feel like it sort of takes out my mood reader influence a little bit. So what I do in my head is I think, is this book up there with others I've read in the genre? Like, how does it scale against them? Because I will say, typically, I do think a lot more like pure romances tend to be more simple writing. So yeah, essentially, I just compare them to others in that genre that I've read mentally. So, for example, I read Abby Jimenez's Yours Truly recently, and I loved it. Yes, it had some very stereotypical romance tropes, etc. And I didn't want to put it down. So I knew it was worth a high rating. But I had already read Part of Your World. And I had also the same month read The Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. And I had to hand on heart say, like, what did I prefer? And for me, with Yours Truly, I slightly prefer Part of Your World, which I gave 5 stars to. And I slightly preferred Love Theoretically. So therefore, for me, Yours Truly, I gave it a 4.5 because I still loved it. But I was like, if I'm comparing to similar books, I think the rating needs to come down just slightly. I sort of compare against the genre and maybe if I've read stuff from that writer before because I know their skills and potential and stuff. So that's kind of how I try to balance out my mood reader self. And I really think about all the times I've read that genre before and how it compares. I hope that makes sense. I know that one's a little bit more unique. I don't think people do that so much. But for me, what makes a good thriller is very different from a romance. And I can't really compare 5 stars in each genre to each other. It just means they're the ones I've really enjoyed within that genre. So for example, recently I read Eeny Meeny by MJ Aldridge, which is a thriller. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. But I also read The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I also gave that 5 stars. But if I hand on heart to pick a favorite, I would go with The Night and the Moth. I just think they're great in their own categories, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we spoke about the 5 main things that I consider when choosing my rating. Let me kind of explain what ratings mean to me, because I feel like one person's 3-star, for example, 3-star rating in the middle can be very different to someone else's. For some people, 3-star means a really good thing, and for other people it means quite a negative thing. And so let me explain where I stand on that. So let's start with 1 stars. I am just going to do like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star. I often use 0.5s, 0.25s, 0.75s. So obviously there is a scale, but let's just pick like what I mean for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so you can kind of get a gist of how I decide. So for me, 1 is absolutely terrible, would never ever recommend to anyone. I've probably DNF'd it or really, really, really strongly wanted to. And I probably think there's issues with the writing, etc. Like, for me, that's absolutely terrible. And I would say I rarely rate anything that. I don't feel many writers deserve that kind of criticism. I know some people rate a lot harsher than me, but for me, that literally means it should never have been published. Like, what is this book? And I thankfully don't come across that really very often at all. Okay, so 2 stars. I've given this rating a few times, or just above that, I think, at a 2.5 a few times. So for me, 2 stars means I didn't enjoy it, but they probably had promise to the book. There might have been some small little parts I liked, or maybe I just honestly felt it wasn't for me. Not that it's bad, but it's just not for me. So I don't feel like the author deserves like, oh, this is absolutely horrendous, but I admit I didn't enjoy it because it's probably not for me, whether it's the writing style, the plot, something has made me not enjoy the book at all. And it probably means I kind of felt like DNFing it at some point, but it was okay enough to like persevere with. Okay, 3 stars. I'm gonna say a decent read. I wasn't completely bored reading it, but I wasn't super invested. I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to read my book. Like, it was just like, it's okay. It had some cute elements, whatever, depending on the genre. I mean, it wouldn't be cute if it was like a thriller or something, right? But yeah, like it had stuff I liked, but just not enough to like really grab me and think, oh, this is amazing. But I enjoyed reading it, basically. That's kind of where a 3 is for me. I would say with a 3, it probably means it just isn't very memorable. Like, it's the kind of book where I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to remember a lot of this. I don't feel like I was fully invested, but it was okay. Okay, then for 4 stars, I would say that means it was really good. I really enjoyed it, but maybe there was like 1 or 2 little things that just made me not like it as much. Maybe there was a particular character I really didn't like. Maybe there was a few plot holes, but the rest was good. I can give an example here actually, because I know I gave Quicksilver when I read that last year. I know I gave that 4 stars, and I know it's super popular. And you know what? I actually rated it higher when I first read it, but then I couldn't stop thinking about all the plot holes in it. There are so many. I do have a video on it if you're interested, but if you love it and you don't want to ruin some of the perspective for yourself, don't worry. For me, I just couldn't stop thinking about these plot holes. So I think I originally rated it 4.5 or 4.75, and I actually took it down to a 4. Plot, characters, generally love them, the whole not wanting to put it down thing, it was up there too. I was really enjoying it, really absorbed in the book. But my overthinking of those plot holes made me realize just how terrible they were, and therefore I just couldn't get on with that. So that was the one aspect I really disliked. So for me, I just couldn't give it a 5-star as a result, so it went to 4. So that's kind of my example with a 4-star. It means I really enjoyed it, but there was probably something I didn't like within there. Either one thing very strongly, or maybe a few things just a little bit that I didn't dislike. That I didn't dislike, that I didn't like. So just a few little things I didn't like that kind of added up. So that's probably what a 4-star is. It's like, it's not perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. And then 5 stars is a book I totally loved, I was totally absorbed in, and I have no real big issues with anything in the book. Now, I will say I am quite a generous rater, I think. Mainly because I feel like authors deserve it. People put so much time and effort into their books, and people do look at those ratings on Goodreads and stuff. So if I'm like, you know what, I couldn't put the book down, I don't have any big issues with it, it deserves that 5-star because, I want to be able to promote the book. I want to help the authors. So for me, it kind of deserves that if it has pretty much everything in place. I will say there are certain ones that I think, oh, they're amazing. They're like my favorites, right? But I rate on a 1 to 5. So they're going to fall in the same as other 5 stars I rate that are just books I think are amazing too. So anything I rate 5 stars, I definitely think is great and deserves it. But my favorites are also going to be in this category. And I might say that they're a favorite and they're up there, and that if I could, I'd rate them a 6-star. That's probably what I would say. But for the purpose of my ratings, anything that holds my interest and I come away feeling some kind of emotion, some kind of investment, and I don't find any particular strong issues, is a 5-star. So yeah, that is how I rate books, and I hope that's given you some insight. You might not agree with how I do it, and that's absolutely fine. I think everyone has their own unique method for it, but that's just so you can understand my ratings a little bit more, especially if you've like watched any of my videos and you're like, I don't know why she's rated that, like I just don't agree, because maybe the numbers mean something completely different to you. Maybe a 3-star is a very good thing, and for me it just means it was okay. So yeah, I think we can all be on very different scales there. So that's just an explanation so you can understand my ratings from now on. And I hope you've enjoyed watching this anyway. I think it's a little bit different. It's quite an interesting topic, and I'd love to know how you rate books. So let me know in the comments, or if you've done videos on this, please send them to me, because yeah, I'm just really intrigued on how everyone rates very differently. And I will see you again real soon. Bye!